All right, let's make a bokeh light brush with heart shapes, and this is just one example of what you can do, and you can use the same technique to make all sorts of different bokeh shapes. We're going to start with a 10-inch canvas, so tap the plus sign, go to inches, 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi, tap create. You need a square canvas to make stamp brushes, and this is a stamp brush. So we need 2 different hearts, and to make those, we're going to make one using Drawing Assist. So turn the drawing guide on, edit drawing guide, go to symmetry, and then you'll automatically be defaulting to this vertical symmetry, which is perfect. Tap done, and it also automatically defaults to having assisted chosen on that layer. So you can turn that on and off just by tapping right there. We're going to go to the calligraphy section and tap the monoline brush. Yours is probably going to look a little different than this because I adjust mine, but it doesn't matter. And now we have assist on, so we can easily make a heart. So let's go ahead and make the style of heart that you prefer. So there's of course lots of different styles. You're probably not going to want too crazy. And it doesn't need to be huge. If the ends are closed, you can drag and drop color right in. All right, so now we need to duplicate that and turn one off. We're going to erase a little bit out of the center for this one. So go to the airbrush, soft brush, erasing, and just get a little bit out of the center here. That is going to give us a little bit of opacity on our brush. And then we want the edge to be a little blurred, so we can go to the magic wand here, adjustments menu, Gaussian blur, and just blur that one. You can see right here, I'm doing about 8%. All right, we're done with that one. We're going to turn the next one on, and on this one we're going to be blurring it a little bit more and erasing it a little bit less. So let's just get a little bit erased out of the center, and let's blur it quite a bit, maybe to 20%. Looks good. All right, now we just need to move them to the corners. Now, it doesn't look like it goes out as far as that dotted line, but it really does. The blurred part does. So don't go off the edge or it will crop. So we're going to leave one here in the corner, and we're going to put the other one up in this corner. And that's how we make our shape source for our new brush. You can go ahead and 3-finger swipe down and copy all. That's going to copy the white and the black. It will not copy that line. In fact, you can turn the drawing guide off and it gets rid of that line. Let's go ahead and group those together and turn them off and add a new layer. All right, let's make a new brush category. So tap the brushes and go ahead and go all the way up to the top till you see the plus sign, and tap plus, and let's go ahead and call it a bokeh brush set. You can tap return, and then that's done, and tap the plus sign to get a brand new brush in that set. We're going to go to the shape source, edit shape source, import, and paste our image right in. Now we need a black background for our shape source, so we're going to 2-finger tap to invert that, and then tap done. All right, this obviously is not our brush yet. We need to make a few more adjustments. So we're going to go to stroke path, and we need to space those out because a brush is just a whole bunch of shape sources put together. And right now, those are really close together. So let's spread them out. And now we need to make them kind of go all over the place along our stroke, and that's what jitter does. They're still all facing straight up and down. I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments to our pad here. Go to drawing pad and clear pad. Tap on it again, and we're going to bump our preview size up and choose a color. There we go. We don't need to do anything in stabilization or taper. Back into shape, since they're all straight up and down, we can change that by going to scatter and just bump that up to however you want. In grain, there's no grain, so these are smooth little hearts right now. And I'm going to add some grain by editing that, importing, and going to source library where we can freely use all of these provided by Procreate. So there's a ton here, and I'm just going to go to sketch paper, and now tap once to get rid of that menu and 2-finger tap to invert it to the light version. You can experiment with both. Tap done. And it's going to be hard to see right here, but I'll show you in a second. But you can zoom in. If I maybe bump my preview size up even more, it might still be hard to see on video. All right, so you can adjust the scale of the grain right here, and you can see that close up when you're doing it on your iPad in front of you. For rendering, go ahead and put it on intense blending, and that's all you need. We don't need to do anything in wet mix. We are going to come back to color dynamics. In regular dynamics, we want there to be a size jitter with the stamps. So it doesn't have anything to do with speed. It's just more about when we're drawing, we want there to be a variety in the size. So they're not all the same size as our shape source, right? So in dynamics, a low size jitter means that the stamps are each going to have a variety, but not a very big variety. So the smaller ones here and the bigger ones here, they're not that different from each other. And the higher you go, there's a bigger difference. So there's a higher range of sizes from small to bigger. So go ahead and bump that up, and you can play with that as well. This is all personal preference. I do want each stamp to have an opacity difference as well. So if you bump that up, you can see now the same thing. I have a wider variety in opacity with each stamp. So let's bump that up. So I have the size at 63 and the opacity at 46, but that's just not an exact number. I'm just kind of playing with it. For Apple Pencil, we don't need to have anything with tilt, so I'm just going to put that to 0. And I am turning opacity down. I don't want my Apple Pencil to be messing with the opacity. I don't want the pressure to change opacity. We already have opacity differences set right here, and that has nothing to do with pressure. And I don't want the Apple Pencil pressure to be making a difference with opacity also, so I'm turning that to 0. And then for flow, you can see that there's nothing going on with pressure right now, right? No matter, I'm going to clear this, no matter how hard I press, it's all the same settings because all our pressure settings are 0 right now. But, so if I draw an example here where I'm doing light pressure to harder pressure, even though you can't see the difference right now because there's no pressure settings here, I went light to hard, and now when I play with the flow, it's going to show what that pressure setting is going to do to that stroke. Here I pressed lighter, here I pressed harder. So you can make a choice if you want your light pressure to have the lighter looks, and then where you want more intense color on your bokeh lights, you can press harder. Then you can set this accordingly. So I'm just putting it at about mid 40s right now, and we'll experiment and come back to that. Properties. I want my maximum size to be able to go pretty big. I don't need my minimum size to be microscopic, so I'm going to bump that up, and we can come back and play with both of those as well. Make sure Orient to Screen is on. And that means that it's something to always check. If your stamps are coming out sideways when you don't expect them to, like when you just have a flower stamp, for example, that's the one to check right there. Let's go ahead and come back to color dynamics. And what the color dynamics is going to do is it's the hue. We have a lot of stamps here, so we're going to play with the stamp color jitter. And the hue means that if you have, say, pink chosen, and I put the hue up to 30%, let's say, then you can see it already changed here. If I have pink chosen, if you look on the color wheel, it's going to choose colors a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left of your chosen color. So it's kind of going over to purple and up to orange. That's kind of a big variety. I'm going to bump it down to 20%. And then we stick with more analogous colors that way that go well together. Saturation is just having a variety in the saturation chosen for each of those stamps. So it's kind of showing right here. It's showing a more saturated red here. I'm just going to bump that to about 7 or 8% and play with that. Lightness and darkness, so each of your stamps can be a tiny bit lighter and a tiny bit darker, have a range so that you have a variety. This is all about variety. And then I'm leaving secondary color alone, but you can also make some changes based on the pressure of your pencil. But I'm not going to do that for this brush. And let's tap done and test it out. So I'm going to test it with a nice light aqua here. So we had the hue should be going to some greens and some blues. So a little bit this way to a little bit this way. If you had it set higher for the hue on the stamp color dynamics, if you had it set higher, it would go a lot this way and a lot this way. So that's your preference. It's up to you. I'm pressing pretty light. Those are pretty colors. So keeping the hue kind of set low, analogous colors are 3 in a row. So green, blue, purple, yellow, orange, red, those go well together. So that hue setting is causing us to automatically have these colors that go well together. So if you look over here at purple, you've got some bluer purples and some pinker colors, and right, they go really well together. And let's test orange. I'm going to bring the saturation up a little bit. So you can see the orange has some yellows, some pinkish reds, and then the orange that we chose. All right, so let's test this out. I'm going to go to a really dark purple, and then on a fresh layer, I'm going to choose some of the blues and greens by going to a blue, so it'll choose some greens and some blues. I'm going to press light. Good, and I'm going to press more firmly. All right, I can see they're kind of clumping together, so I might want to make an adjustment there. I'm going to go to my smaller size. I think I kind of like that size. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever use it, but it's visible. It's not microscopic. I'm going to go to my biggest size. I'm pretty sure I won't need anything that big or bigger, so I think our settings for size are okay. If you wanted it to go bigger, you can go back to properties and change the size. You can see our texture now when you look closely. So if you don't want texture, you can go back to a blank white on that green source. I want to play with the jitter. It's kind of too clumped together in a lot of ways. So let's tap on the brush again and go to stroke path. And we're going to clear that and make an example stroke. Ooh, I'm going to make a smaller example stroke. So you can see how there's these gaps and then there's these big clusters. So I think I want to spread them out a little bit more. And yeah, I think I'm going to actually bring the jitter down a little bit. It's a little bit easier to control. I think the higher jitter definitely makes it more random, but it does make it harder to kind of get the look you want. Like I want a stroke of them right there. So that's something you can play with. So making brushes has a lot of experimenting involved. And I think just to show you quickly how I make a card is I chose just kind of, let's go down to more of a blue. I chose a bigger size and I pressed really lightly for the ones that look farther away. And then I'm going to go to a smaller size and I'm going to press a little harder. And that allows for a little bit more intensity because of our setting that we have on the flow setting. So if you want, go ahead and go back in and go back down to, what was it, Properties, Apple Pencil, Flow. Bump Flow up and see how that changes. And then you can decide what you like better. Bump Flow back down to 0, and you can see that no matter how lightly I press, they're very intense. I think I like the flow adjustment. So I'm going to go back up to about 45 with flow. That looks good. And then let's test out some reds on a new layer. And let's do some orange. Bigger size. Smaller size. Lighter color. And I'm pressing harder. Ooh, it's so fun. Let's talk about our stamps, our stamp shape source really quick. So you can see our two hearts are somewhat similar. If you want more of a variety, you can go back to your shape sources. You need the white background, and you can make some changes to that. So let's say I want to have this heart be a little bit more empty in the center. I can just come back and I've got my airbrush and I can do some more erasing in the center. So the drawing assist is still turned on, yet the heart is not centered. So let's turn that off, and then you can just come in and manually do both sides without drawing assist. Then you can 3-finger swipe down, copy all, and if you want to go ahead and duplicate that brush because you're pretty happy with that brush and you don't want to mess it up, then you can change this one, go to Shape Source, Edit, Import, and Paste. It just lightened that one up a little bit. Tap Done, Done again, and then let's turn that off and go to a new layer. We'll go back down to a deeper color so we can compare it. So now our two hearts are more different from one another, which I think is a good thing for Bokeh. And that's it. Be sure to name your brushes. So all you need to do is go to About This Brush, tap here to name it. So Jen's Heart Bokeh. You can just name them Bokeh 1, Bokeh 2, Bokeh 3. You don't need to get super creative. You can tap the name and type in your name. You can put your signature there. And then all of that, plus doing the create a new reset point, is not quite enough. You actually really need to add a photo. So what I'm going to do is go back to one that I have way back here for my little logo and add that. This always ends up staying highlighted. I think it's a little bit of a glitch. Make sure those things are set. Tap Create Reset Point, Save, and Done. And now when you go back into that brush, these are locked. You can see they are not able to be edited. I can edit the name, but these are locked in. And that locked, unless there's been an update that makes a liar out of me with this, I can do this and this, and if I don't do that, then it's not locked. So definitely make sure you lock it so it belongs to you. If you were to sell this brush, somebody else wouldn't be able to come in here and change it to their own name. And now you can see the name is right here. Oh, also, right there, if your image is too big right here, that is in Properties, and it's this preview size. When you change your preview size here, did you see that? It changes here as well. So I don't know why that's the case, because that other spot is just for experimenting on the drawing pad, but just watch those two settings. And then, yeah, you can adjust that to your liking. Here's one that I made with the blues and greens with a free font that I found online. I'll be making a video soon about finding free fonts and importing those into Procreate. I always make sure they're totally free so that I can use them however I like. Enjoy!